Welcome back to another episode of our 15-minute podcast, Leadership Lenses. Podcast designed for principals, heads of school, leaders, anyone else who would like to enhance and improve Jewish education. It's the beginning of August right now, and I know some of you are going back to school. Your teachers are coming back this week, next week, some of you in a few weeks. But all of us, wherever we are starting to think about that start of the school year. Now, for teachers, the year may feel like it starts when students walk into the building. And that's true for us principals and heads of school as well. But we also have an earlier start. We have that moment on the first day of teacher in-service, teacher orientation, where all the teachers come back into the building. And I know for me, as a principal, as a head, that was always a little bit more of a nerve-wracking day than when the students came, because that was really the start of the new year. And from speaking to a number of the leaders I work with, I've heard so many people say, I'd really like to capture the ability to start something new. I want to set a new tone. I want to launch something. I want this year to be a little bit different, maybe just a little bit better than last year. I'm not entirely sure how I go about launching that. How do I go about starting that? So I want to suggest something fairly simple, which will hopefully lead into something slightly more complex. Think for a moment about whatever it is you do to first address the teachers, the faculty, the staff that come back to school on that first day. For many schools, it's a welcome back in the auditorium. Everybody sits down. Principal, head of school gets up, welcomes everyone back, talks a little bit about the year, about the week to come. For others, they're sitting and they're having a school breakfast together, or they're doing something else of that sort. For others, there isn't really a group welcome. It's just people come into their classrooms and you might go around from class to class. But whatever that is, whatever you did last year, I want to suggest, and I want to really give you the permission to take the risk of changing that this year, right? So if you were in an auditorium last year, think about maybe doing this year in your school library. You don't have a school library. Maybe you only have one space. I know in my school we had the Kappa Gymatorium, which basically was where we did everything. There was nowhere else that fit all the teachers. Well, if you're in that situation, think about maybe moving outside. Maybe you can set up some folding chairs on the grass. Do something to shift the physical environment. If all you have is the auditorium and it's going to rain that day, so you can't go outside, that's fine. Maybe instead of chairs in rows, you move them into circles. Maybe instead of just hearing a lecture, hearing a presentation, you have some sort of collaborative work or collaborative game that welcomes people back. You do something physical, concrete, as clear as possible to say, this year is going to be a little bit different than last year. And you're also saying, I thought about this. I'm not just going through the motions of the same opening meeting that we did last year and the year before and the year before, where you all come in, you all bear with it because you don't really have a choice, and then you go about your regular work. This is something that we've thought of. This year, we're doing something a little bit different. And as a bonus, if you can shift that in a way that connects to the direction that you want to encourage teachers to take this year, that's even better. So if I want teachers to move from frontal teaching a little bit more towards that group work collaboration, then I take my opening meeting and I translate it from a lecture, from a presentation, from a PowerPoint into a collaboration. Well, I've just set the tone for them, right? If I want teachers to think about moving the desks or tables in their classroom from rows into work groups, well, then I ought to take the chairs and the setup in our opening meeting and move it from rows into work groups. If I want to build community in the school, then maybe I want to do something to build community on that first day with teachers. Maybe I introduce a little bit of food. Maybe I share something a little bit on the personal side, a picture from a family vacation this summer, or something else that lets me connect. The main thing is, I'm not doing what I did last year. I'm doing something different, which by its very nature tells people that I am thoughtful. I'm thinking. I'm trying. I have a purpose here. I'm not just going through the motions, and my purpose hopefully connects even towards where I want you to go. Now, concrete is easy to understand. Concrete is tremendously symbolic, and it's about that symbolism. So the simple piece is knowing you have changed the setup, right? Inside to outside, rows to circles, rows to work groups, just sitting and listening to having some food, coffee, whatever you've done, you've changed the concrete atmosphere. And now you're going to use that as an opening to change the emotional atmosphere, because you've messaged very concretely that you're interested in doing something different this year. So now think about what you want to convey to the teachers. But don't think about the content first. I don't know what content you want, whatever message you have this year. I'm sure they're all wonderful, and I mean that seriously. But I want you to step back before the message and think about how a teacher feels when they're coming in to that first day. Think about the pressure they feel to set up their classroom, to decorate their bulletin boards, to plan their lessons, to get things ready. Whether they're a veteran or whether they're a novice, there's a lot of emotion going on there. And so before you do anything about the theme of this year or where our professional learning, our professional development is going, you need to address that emotional state. You need to say, I'm crafting not only a physical space here, but I'm crafting an emotional space. I'm crafting an emotional space that is going to support you in pursuing whatever direction it is. And we know, and sometimes this term may be overused, you cannot learn something new, you cannot take a risk without a sense of psychological and emotional safety. Now, that doesn't mean that we all hold hands and sing Kumbaya, although Kumbaya is a nice song to start with. What it means is we message to teachers, take a risk, and we'll be here to support you, right? I moved my opening meeting from inside to outside. I risked rain, I risked wind, I risked a bunch of noisy kids walking by. Take a risk as well. You know, if something goes wrong, it's going to be okay. And by the way, you might, in the middle of this new meeting where you have things set up differently, have to completely improvise because things go sideways because you did something new. And that is exactly what you want to message to teachers if you want to support them in growing. Now, I know a lot of the emotional safety for teachers, the go-to for a lot of us, is routine. A break in routine can be the scariest thing. And so I want to set my classroom up just like I did last year. So if I want to push teachers, inspire teachers, enable teachers to do something different, I've got to replace the safety that they got from routine with safety that I'm giving them. And I'm creating that safe space, both literally and metaphorically, for them to try new things by how I start this year. So I create the physical space, and then before I go into any possible change, I create the emotional space. And once I've done both of those things, no, I have not fixed the entire year, but what I have done is create an opening. I've shown, hey, this year has the potential to be something different. And when we follow up with our professional learning, with our professional development, with everything that we've got planned step by step for the rest of this year, we're hopefully going to be using that opening we've created to walk through and to guide the teachers through with us. Try it out. Try something new. Let me know how it goes. You can reach us, as always, on LinkedIn at Barry Kislowitz, Substack, Leadership Lenses, or our website, kislowitzconsulting.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Have a wonderful day and happy leading.